Roughly half of all children born in the ancient world never made it to their fifth birthday. Half. Every family knew loss. Every parent lived in fear. In a world with no medicine, no hospitals, and no guaranteed food, keeping a child alive was the hardest job a human could have. It took the whole tribe, years of sacrifice, and sometimes decisions so brutal we can barely say them out loud. But they did it. Not perfectly, not painlessly, but enough. Enough for the human race to keep going, one fragile child at a time. These are the 10 most brutal things ancient humans did to keep their children alive. And number one is the real reason our entire species still exists. Let's start with number 10. Number 10. Breastfeeding for years, not months. Modern babies get weaned in a year or two. Ancient babies often nursed for 3, 4, sometimes 5 years straight. There was a hard reason for this. Breast milk was the only safe, clean, reliable food a baby could get. There was no formula, no soft food that wouldn't make an infant sick, no clean water you could trust. A mother's milk was medicine, nutrition, and immunity, all in one. So mothers nursed for years, giving the child the best possible shot at surviving its most fragile stage. It was exhausting and constant. But every extra month at the breast was another month of protection against starvation and disease. In a deadly world, milk was the first and strongest line of defense. Number 9. Never putting the baby down. Today we have cribs, strollers, and safe rooms. Ancient parents had none of that. What they had were predators, cliffs, fire, and 100 ways for a child to die in seconds. So they simply never let go. Babies were carried constantly, strapped to their mothers or older siblings day and night. A child left on the ground for even a moment could be snatched by a predator or crawl into danger. Constant carrying did more than keep them safe. The warmth, the heartbeat, and the closeness kept babies calm and regulated their little bodies. It was survival and comfort in one. The child was basically an extension of the parent's own body, held close through every hunt, every march, and every dangerous night. Number 8. Piling together so children wouldn't freeze. Cold kills the small and the weak first, and nothing was smaller or weaker than a child. At night, especially in winter, freezing temperatures were a constant threat to tiny bodies that lose heat fast. So the tribe used the oldest heater there is, each other. Everyone slept crammed together in a pile, sharing body heat like a huddle of penguins. And the warmest, safest spot, the center of the pile, was reserved for the children and the babies. The adults formed a living wall of warmth around them, taking the cold edges themselves. Survival wasn't about blankets. It was about bodies. And the whole group arranged itself every night to make sure the youngest stayed warm enough to see morning. Number 7. Chewing food so babies could eat it. Weaning a baby off milk was dangerous. Solid food was hard to chew, hard to digest, and often covered in things that could make an infant deadly sick. So parents became the baby's first food processor, literally. They chewed the food themselves first, breaking it down into a soft, warm paste, and then fed it directly to the child, mouth to mouth. It sounds gross by modern standards, but it was genius. Chewing pre-digested the food, making it soft enough for a toothless baby to swallow and easier for a tiny stomach to handle. In some cases, the parent's saliva may even have added helpful enzymes and protection. It was messy, intimate, and completely practical, a bridge that carried a child safely from milk to real food. Number 6. Teaching danger before teaching anything else. Ancient children didn't get a slow, sheltered childhood. The world was too dangerous for that. So survival lessons started almost as soon as they could walk. Kids were taught early which plants were poison and which were food. They learned the tracks and sounds of predators, and what to do if one appeared. They watched adults hunt, build, and defend, absorbing life-or-death skills through constant observation. This wasn't school. It was survival training drilled in from the youngest age. A child who knew which berry killed and which fed had a real advantage. Every skill passed down early was another layer of protection. In a world that punished ignorance with death, teaching a child to recognize danger fast was one of the most loving things a parent could do. Number 5. Raising children with the whole tribe. Here's something we've mostly lost. Ancient children weren't raised by just 2 parents, they were raised by everyone. The whole group shared the load of protecting and feeding the young. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, older siblings, and unrelated adults all watched, fed, and guarded the children. Scientists call this cooperative breeding, and humans are very good at it. This was a survival superpower. If a mother died, the child wasn't automatically doomed, because others stepped in. Many hands meant more eyes watching for predators and more sources of food. A child protected by a whole tribe had far better odds than one relying on two people alone. It took a village, not as a saying, but as a hard survival strategy. Number 4. Spacing out babies to keep them alive. Having too many babies too fast was a death sentence for the babies and the mother. So ancient humans spaced out their children, and one natural tool did most of the work. Long, intense breastfeeding suppresses fertility. By nursing each child for years, mothers naturally delayed the next pregnancy, often spacing births 3 or 4 years apart. It wasn't a conscious plan so much as biology doing its job. And that spacing was crucial. It meant each child got years of full attention, milk, and protection before a new baby arrived. A mother wasn't stretched across 5 helpless infants at once. Fewer children, spaced further apart, each with a real chance, beat a swarm of babies competing for scarce food and care. Quality of survival over sheer quantity. Number 3. Choosing who had the best chance. And here, the story turns dark. Because sometimes there simply wasn't enough. Not enough food, not enough milk, not enough safety to save everyone. In times of famine or crisis, parents and tribes sometimes faced impossible situations. When resources ran out, the harsh reality was that not every child could be kept alive. Care and food might be focused on the child with the strongest chance to survive. We recoil from this today, and we should be grateful we can. But this wasn't cruelty. It was the crushing math of a world with no safety net. Spreading scarce food across every mouth could mean losing all of them. Focusing it could save at least one. These were the kinds of choices no human should ever face, made by people just trying to keep their bloodline alive. Number 2, the brutal decisions of famine and migration. And this is the part that's almost unbearable to imagine. When the food ran out completely or the tribe had to move or die, survival demanded the coldest choices humans can make. During famine, brutal winters, or desperate migrations across dangerous land, a group could only move as fast as its weakest member. Sometimes carrying every infant, feeding every mouth, and protecting everyone simply wasn't possible. And terrible decisions had to be made about who the group could realistically save. It's horrifying. It's heartbreaking. But these weren't monsters. They were parents trapped in situations so extreme that every option was a tragedy. The survival of the group and of the species sometimes came down to losses no one wanted and no one ever forgot. This was the true hidden cost of survival. And number 1, the truth behind all of it. Keeping children alive was the engine of our entire species, because none of the rest mattered without this one thing. Every fire built, every predator outsmarted, every animal tamed, every winter survived. All of it meant nothing if the children died. The next generation was the entire point. A tribe could be strong, clever, and lucky, and still vanish completely in a single generation if its children didn't make it. So, keeping kids alive wasn't just one job among many. It was the job. The one that everything else served. Every brutal choice, every sacrifice, every year of nursing and caring and teaching was in service of a single goal: getting the next generation to adulthood. You exist because an unbroken chain of ancestors won that fight. Over and over. For hundreds of thousands of years. Every one of them kept a child alive so that eventually that child could be you. So the next time you see a parent exhausted, a family struggling, or a child being protected, understand what you're really looking at. The oldest, most important mission our species has ever had. Ancient humans didn't survive because they were the strongest or the smartest animals. They survived because generation after generation, against impossible odds, they kept their children alive. And that unbroken chain leads directly to you. If this moved you, the next one goes deeper still, where we reveal every forbidden thing ancient humans did to reproduce in a world that made it dangerous. Tap the screen, and let's keep going.